Hey guys, on today's job we are doing a heater core on a 2001 Boxster. Now we've already disassembled this because I had to confirm to be able to quote to the customer if the heater core was leaking, and this is a somewhat normal or regular occurrence with these cars. And what the actual complaint was inside the car when the heater was on, you could kind of smell coolant, but it wasn't really dripping. Now these are a really easy job for anyone that's ever done a heater core in something like a BMW where it seems like the entire car is built around the heater core. These are really not the case. So I've already got everything out. We'll show you how it all goes back together, but this is the actual heater core element right here. There's two screws that hold it in, one there, and then all we do, we pull it up, we can remove our heater core. And on this particular one, we can see where we've got coolant that's been leaking out around the top of the fins, and also the bottom of the heater core is also covered in coolant residue. So this one is definitely leaking and definitely the source of our antifreeze smell inside the cabin. All right, so I'm just going to try and wipe out as much as I can down in there, and I'll get my shop vac and vacuum out the rest of the residue.
Hey, if this really leaked, would it go into the cabin? Where's it go?
No, there'd probably be a drain. Can't really get much down in there. So we got our new heater core assembly. That, and we can see this one is a lot nicer looking. Okay, we've got a new heater core gasket we're going to install first. It's going to come up the top here. Okay. There's a heater core with a sealing gasket. We vacuumed out the cavity and we're ready to install. So just like it came out, it's gonna slide right back in, hopefully. There we go. Now these screws do not have to be super tight because they are screwing into plastic. So we just want to nip them down. Perfect. So that's our new heater core installed. It's screwed down all the way and we can start putting everything back together. So when it comes to these little covers that are on these heater cores, and there's the old one, I don't even bother trying to save them because these are stuck down with a body putty and it's reusable. You don't need to reapply. If it peels off and most of it sticks to this side, then I just peel it off and transfer it back onto here. So when I order the heater cores, I always just order a brand new cover piece, and this is just seals this part of the cabin off, keeps the dust off. There's still cowls and other things that are going to go on here, but just order a new one of these, not super expensive when you're doing the job. Okay, so one thing that you will notice too is the new cover has some sticky stuff on it as well. Then with this AC line, I'm just going to move it out of my way as much as I can. Okay, I just want to press that glue down onto the body just to make sure we've got a nice good seal. Keep any dust and debris out of that interior compartment. And then I've got our 2 heater hoses. When it comes to the cooling system, you don't have to drain the whole system to do this job. If you want to, you can just use a clamp to clamp off the lines to stop them leaking any fluid out while you've got them off, so that saves a lot of time and effort. Okay, there's our heater lines back on. Everything's in there nice and tight, sealed up. Now we can just start putting the rest of the car back together. Yeah, I'm just taking this opportunity right now to kind of clean some of this area out, because once everything goes back in, it's kind of hard to get to. I'm not looking to detail it or anything like that, just move all the big chunks that I can. Hopefully leave it a little better than how I found it. So the first part that's going to go back in is going to be our strut support brace, and this is going to bolt straight up across the back here, like so. It's going to have 4 6mm bolts that you take a 10mm socket. Okay, gets our bracket back in. So before I put my strut brace on, I have this little plastic block that's just going to slide in, and my strut brace is just going to slide in that hole like that. And we have 2 6mm bolts without washers, or just 2 6mm bolts. Start that. And I'm just going to screw everything together finger tight at first, and then I'll come back and tighten it in just a second. Okay, so that's the strut brace back in. Now, before we put the strut brace on the other side, the wiper motor has to go back in. And on the other side, the little plastic blocking piece that fits in here has to also wrap around our wiper motor arm. So for that, it comes in 2 pieces. And usually when you pull that wiper out, it'll tend to want to fall apart. So if you see something drop off when you're pulling all that out, it's probably this piece. So we're going to install that next. So our wiper motor is going to bolt to our bracket here, also through here, and here there's a little speed nut underneath here. You got to be careful. Sometimes this speed nut will tend to want to fall off. Good thing is it won't go too far. It'll just end up straight down there. You just got to remember to pluck it out. So I'm going to grab our mounting hardware, and I want to leave everything kind of loose. I'm going to start with my bolt back up here. The rest of these holes are elongated so they can allow for a little bit of movement when you're installing that. So you always want to make sure that everything is installed finger tight before you start tightening any one bolt down. So we got everything pretty much run down. All we got to do is tighten it up. All right, so now I've got the wiper installed, or the wiper motor installed. I'm going to do the same thing with my strut brace, just like we did on the other side. Just kind of want to get it down in this general area. All right, I've still got my cowl and my wipers to put back on, but before I do that, I want to fill it up with coolant and get some circulation going on. Just make sure I don't have any leaks up here. I don't expect to have any, but it's always good to check before you cover it all up. Okay, so I've been running the car for about probably 5 to 10 minutes right now, and I can feel when I feel on the pipe, you've got these little arrows right here. This one says inlet, this one says outlet. If I feel the inlet, it's starting to warm up. Temperature gauge says I'm right around maybe 125 degrees, but I've definitely got some flow going. Everything looks pretty good right here, no evidence of any leaks or anything. But I'm just gonna let it heat up a little bit more and make sure that everything's still good before I close it up. All right, so I've been running the car for about 30 minutes now, and thermostat just opened up. We had the cooling fan cycle. Both of my heater hoses definitely hot. We've got the cap on the cooling system, so we're under pressure. No leaks. Inside the cab is nice and hot. Plenty of hot air coming out of the heater vent, so I would say that we are done up here. So all I need to do now to complete this is put our front cowling on. Now the original cowl that came off was broken in two places. It was broken up on this stud right here. Instead of having a nut and a washer to hold that cowl on, they'd filled it up with a clump of silicone, which was rather interesting to dig out and try and get out. On the other side with that same stud, the only thing that was holding the cowl down was the actual windshield wiper blade. So I've gone ahead and bought a new cowling. This is seems to be a common theme with these as well, as we're really starting to see pretty much every Boxster we see comes through has this cowl section that's broken. So here's our old cowling, and here's what was down inside. So what they had was, you can see that's where the mounting stud was. They'd put this in and then literally just filled that up full of silicone, and I had to really kind of force it out of there. And then the same on the other side. You can see down in here, there's just all of the plastic pieces broken away. So what I do have to do is I need to transfer my two washer jets. So I need to disconnect the hose, pop these out. These are the wiring harnesses for the heated portion of that washer jet, and just transfer them into the new cowl. Okay, so the way that these are held on is there's a little locking tab right there that locks in on that portion. So all I did was put some pressure on that electrical connection and pushed it back while pushing that little lever across, and that releases that. Then inside here, same thing, we're just going to have that little lever. And then that's just going to pop it out. So this little locking tab right here is what holds that washer jet in place. Okay, so there's our old cover. So we've got our new cover. Just going to drop our washer jet into, press it down till it locks, down until it locks. Electrical connection. That. And there's my washer hose back on. We're ready to put it in. On this one, you can see the difference down in here is the plastic is intact. So it'll mount up onto our studs on both sides. Okay, before I put that cowl in, I'm just going to clean the bottom part of the windshield, because the seal and the cowl will run up right here. You can kind of sort of see a little bit of a line. All right, so just transferred over the cowl seal, and you've just got to kind of, there's a channel right here that you just got to push that into. Not exactly the best design, getting them balanced. It took a couple of attempts to kind of in and out and move it along to get it all somewhat lined up. It's a little bit of a juggling act getting this in. Perfect. Then we've got our windshield washer hose right here. Before I get all the way down with this, I want to just plug it back in. So we have 2 screws right here and here. Then our bolts up here. We just want to make sure our wipers are all kind of lined up in the center of the post. And then here we've got our mounting stud right there, which is not now filled full of silicone. Just gotta make sure it lines up there, which doesn't look like it is. So we've got one self-tapping screw up here, and I'm just gonna get it started and not tighten it down all the way. Kind of always best practice when doing this stuff. And then get the other 2 started. Okay, there's everything started, so I can go and tighten stuff now. Okay, you want to be careful when you tighten these, so you don't want to break out that plastic that we just replaced this cowl for. Got all that, I'm just going to put my little plastic cover back in and lock it down. So before I close everything up in here, I need to plug my windshield washer heater wiring back in. So there's our first side. Okay, there's our second heater plugged in. Okay, there's all our plastic pieces installed. Okay, so the last thing I need to do is put on my windshield wipers. There are a left and a right, so you need to pay attention to which one's which. And when I put the windshield wipers on, I'm just gonna press down on that taper in there. I want to line that wiper up. I want to make sure it's not hard up against the cowl, just parallel with the dash. just gonna use a 13mm socket. Nip these down. These do not need to be really tight. And the last thing I'm going to do is put some new caps to cover those bolts. Okay, well that wraps up our heater core installation. Pretty much getting down to it is the exact reverse, so you're just going to take all the things off in the same order that we put them back on, just in reverse. I'd like to say thanks for watching. If you like the video, please go ahead and like. If you want to see more, please make sure to subscribe, and we appreciate you all out there watching our videos.